tax havens, and you're the reason rich people exist. Let me start with another very quick history lesson on what money is and how it has changed over the millennia. At first, means of exchange was done with used commodities. Frank, I'll trade you this cow for that lumber. This was done with every commodity available. Afterward it was done almost exclusively with hard food stuff, such as grain. Grain became the medium of exchange for much of the world. Grain was stored as money at banks and in homes. If not used for purchases, it was used as food. It was a practical choice. Deborah, how many curtains can I buy with this pound of grain? Later on again, precious metals began to be used as currency, but not before something called cowrie shells were used. They're seashells. The probable reason they replaced foodstuff is a mixture of reasons, but one that stands out most is the fact that they cannot rot. They can break, but if taken care of and left in a secure bank, they would generally still stay intact. Back to precious metals. Gold, silver, and copper are probably the most used to this day for coins. Before coinage was invented, metals were weighed at each transaction. The commodity being bought was set at a price by weight, different than today, however. My dear Charles, this donkey will cost you 1 pound of silver. At this point it should be clear where the term pound comes from in terms of British money. The British aren't alone in this, however. Before the euro, the Italian currency was called the lira. The Turkish currency at the time of this writing is still called the lira. Lira in Latin means pound. The Spanish peseta means coin by weight. This system carried through until 1971, when the United States unbonded its currency to the price of gold. Guess what? The world followed the leader. It was a good idea. Although paper money was around for centuries, until 1971 the only way to make more money was to have a store of precious metal to back it. I will get into the ramifications of asset-backed currencies later on when I talk about the crypto market. For now I want to ask, what does all this mean? It means until 1971 anyone could have created money. Anyone with a farm could have grown grain, anyone could have fished for cowries, anyone could have mined for gold and silver. Now it's different. Previously taxes were a form of collecting the assets to fill government coffers. The public did fund the government. As well, the government did themselves mine for gold for itself. Now, you can still trade in grain, gold, or to a lesser extent cowrie shells for money, but those assets aren't themselves money. Moreover, the government doesn't need to own a state-run mining industry in order to expand the money supply. With fiat currencies all they need to do is print more paper and there is more money. They don't need to wait for your tax dollars. By now you should know that the government supplies the money for its population. It not only does so, it is tasked to do so. It has an obligation to make sure there is money for the population to use. What does this mean? And what does it have to do with tax havens and rich people? I will get to that shortly. The more financial transactions there are, the more money is printed. Every additional person who joins the workforce triggers the central bank to print more money. The amount of money printed depends on the salary of that person. Canada's government debt is at the time of this writing around $1.4 trillion. It doesn't owe this money to China or Russia or USA. It owes it to its own central bank. Nor does this $1.4 trillion figure mean the country is in poor condition. It just means that the population as a whole between everyone is sharing $1.4 trillion. Once you do the math and divide it up between salaries of the rich, middle class and poor, you will see that it fits together quite nicely. All the money used in Canada is sourced from the central bank and it has to return to the central bank. There is a constant flow, out then in. If the flow stops, that is when there is a problem. That means the economy has stopped. People have stopped purchasing and selling. It's safe to say that hasn't ever happened, but it has slowed from time to time. I'll talk about rate in regards to central bank debt repayment another time. Taxes are a way the government takes back money to put into the central bank. The reason for it is so people take out loans. This stimulates the economy. I'll talk more deeply about this later on as well. For now, I want to talk about tax havens and offshore accounts. I'll start by saying, once you put your money in a foreign bank account it is no longer Canadian currency. You have exchanged your Canadian currency for their currency. That is what is saved in a foreign bank. A couple questions come up here. Why can I take out USD or euros when I go to my local bank? What's happening when you ask to take out foreign currency is you're buying it. They just happen to have a supply on hand. If you ask to purchase a foreign currency that they don't have on hand, you'll have to wait for it physically to arrive. Another question is, if my money in a foreign bank account is no longer Canadian, where did my Canadian money go? Most often when you buy foreign currency at your local bank, or when you put your money in a foreign bank, the money goes back to its origin country. This is how most money around the world works. The simplest reason is because you can't buy groceries at a no-frills with yen. Nor can you use Canadian dollars to purchase a ticket for the Shinkansen. This is true for cash purchases as well as card purchases. It's less obvious with cards because the currency exchange is instant and invisible. So, when you hear someone say that rich people are hiding their wealth in offshore accounts, that money is no longer Canadian. Their money has already made its way back to Canada. The way it does this is in the form of foreign investment. By putting Canadian money in a foreign account, you are supplying the wider world with Canadian cash that can only be used in Canada. Tourists buy this money before they set off to vacation here. Foreign industry leaders use this money to purchase land that will house a factory. That factory will employ Canadians. Do you like working at your Toyota, Honda, Subaru, BMW, Mercedes, Ford, Chevy, Fiat, Hyundai, and Kia dealership or factory? They're only possible because of foreign investment, which is only possible because money was either stored abroad or used abroad in other ways. So, having money put in tax havens or anywhere else foreign will stimulate investment in the country the money was sourced from. The reason is because money can only be used where it came from. I hope now you have a grasp of what money is and how it flows. If you want a deeper knowledge of all this, I recommend the following books and lecture series. An Economic History of the World Since 1400, by Donald J. Harold. Money and Banking, What Everyone Should Know by Michael K. Salemi. Thinking About Capitalism by Jerry Z. Muller. Economics, 3rd edition by Timothy Taylor. International Economic Institutions by Ramon P. Degan-Nero. How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes by Peter D. Schiff and Andrew J. Schiff. Now, I'm going to talk quickly about why you're the reason rich people exist. When you ask the general public, what makes people rich? 50% of responders say what you should expect. They work hard, they had a great idea, they solved a problem, they provide a meaningful service or product. The other 50% of responders are people who don't think that deep, who are lost or confused, espionage bots or people making a joke of the question. These next few paragraphs are for those who don't think that deep about it and who are lost and confused. Sure, some rich people are born rich, but the first rich person wasn't born that way. They earned it. They worked for it. There is a variety of ways to do this, legal or otherwise. I'm going to be referring only to the legal means. However, it differs very little. This is not to say that rich people are criminals. This is to say, those who end up rich provide something that a great amount of people are willing to pay for. That can be from coffee to cocaine. Do you hate the owner of Tim Hortons? I don't. I love him or her so much it kills me, because if I don't have my coffee I might kill someone. Perhaps you don't buy your coffee from a big evil corporation, but there's something you use that a big corporation made possible. You wouldn't be able to cry about social justice on TikTok if multiple billion-dollar corporations weren't involved. You wouldn't be able to charge your phone, connect to the internet, open an app, then verbally assault people with your passed-down rhetoric, without a billion-dollar industry that you yourself support by paying your bills on time. There's nothing wrong with buying products from corporations. Don't feel bad that there are rich people in the world. Feel good that it can one day be possible for you to be rich. All it takes is for you to think up an idea that people will pay you for. Even Ibram X. Kendi knows that. Once you're rich, then you can spread the wealth if you choose. You can even serve yourself up on a platter for people to eat you. I'm sure you can get people to pay for that. Sorry, I was having a little fun. Next chapter I will begin talking about how building high-speed rail will significantly drop housing prices.